I know that my children, in later years, my transgender community will understand. We have to stand up and speak for ourselves. We have to fight for ourselves. We saved their lives. We were the frontliners of the so-called 1969 rebellion of the Stonewall.
In the hectic social climate of the 1960s, a revolution emerged, a movement for the LGBT+ community. This revolution was the Stonewall Uprising. The people who rebelled at the Stonewall Inn stood up against violence and prejudice and are responsible for the start of the modern LGBT+ rights movement. But this begs the question, why was a revolution even necessary? People who came out during that time often lost their job in their house. They could be beaten and arrested and sometimes even killed. It was even worse for kids. Most open LGBT+ youth got kicked out of school, were homeless, abused, or drug addicted. And it wasn't just society that was against gay people, the government was too. For example, employers could legally fire somebody based off sexual or romantic orientation, and landlords could deny housing. Reagan didn't even bother mentioning the AIDS epidemic until 1985, resulting in countless people dying from a disease just because of the stigma around gay people. Early gay rights organizations like the Mattagene Society started the conversation on LGBT+ rights by protesting and helping LGBT+ people. However, it wasn't really until the Stonewall Uprising that the world started to pay attention. The Stonewall Inn, a gay bar on Christopher Street in Greenwich Village, Manhattan. It was opened by the Mafia in 1966, and there was no running water, no fire exits, and no proper licensing. This was the haven for gay and trans youth in New York City.
Queer clubs are safe spaces because no one's judging you for what the rest of the world's judging you for there. For some people, that's the only space where they don't have to worry about how gay they are, or how trans they are, or how queer they are in general. These bars are safe havens where you get to be yourself unapologetically.
Naturally, the Stonewall Inn was raided by the police heavily. The people who went to this bar normally allowed it to happen because their fear was stronger than their spite. However, on the night of June 28, 1969, things were different. When the police came into the Stonewall Inn, the patrons started to fight back.
Most gay people back then, if they had any kind of a job, they were scared to death of even being found out to be gay. We had nothing, so we had nothing to lose.
When the police came in that side, my friends and I kicked the plywood door out here, and we got out on the street before the cops blocked it. Outside, there was maybe 30, 40 people. Within a few hours, there was a couple of hundred people. A couple of hours later, it was close to 900 people out there. The police admitted they were afraid to leave the building. There was a very young man standing against the wall, and the cop pushed the man. It took 2 cops to stop that guy from beating up the policeman, and then it turned out to be a lesbian with a mustache. Her name was Stormy DeLevere. That started most of the rebellion inside. Outside, we broke the windows with rocks, bottles, anything we could find to throw. After we ran out of things to throw and run and everything, we started lighting the garbage cans, and we threw the lit garbage cans in the building to burn the bar down with the police in it.
On the same night, 2 activist trans queens of color named Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera were at the Stonewall Inn celebrating Marsha's birthday. And when the police had the audacity to crash Marsha's party, she was the first to throw a shot glass at them. The so-called shot glass heard around the world. The fighting went long into the night. By about 4 a.m., the police successfully cleared the streets, but it wasn't over. Over the next few nights, people started more riots, and over the following weeks, fights broke out all over Greenwich Village between gay people and the police. This was only the beginning of the long fight for LGBT rights. As tensions rose, the people of Stonewall and others began to use their frustration to bring about change.
She just didn't nod or acknowledge you. She turned around and said hello. She was always like that, which gave you a chance, even fleetingly, to know her. She was warm. So everybody knew Marsha. No one had anything bad to say about Marsha. Marsha was really well liked.
Maybe she'd take her last $10 and go out the door and come back 20 minutes later with this big bouquet, $10 worth of flowers. And I'd say, Marsha, what are you doing wasting your last $10 on flowers? And she'd go in my back room and be putting them in her hair and making this incredible arrangement.
Two key figures in this continued fight for equality are Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. In the years following the Stonewall Uprising, they founded the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, which was an organization meant to keep LGBT+ youth, primarily black trans women and drag queens, off the streets and to give them support. These two women also helped organize the first Pride rally. On June 28, 1970, the parade marched 51 blocks from Christopher Street to Central Park to commemorate the Stonewall Uprising and to bring awareness to the struggles of the LGBT+ community. More cities followed suit and held their own Pride parades, and because of this, June became known as Pride Month, a month to celebrate and support the LGBT+ community. Marsha and Sylvia fought for gay liberation for most of their lives, trying to make life better for themselves and for others. However, Sylvia had a mixed relationship with the rights movement. After the initial fighting at Stonewall, the movement quickly turned into a fight just for the rights of white gay men and women. This caused the exclusion of transgender people and people of color.
Sylvia left the movement after the first three or 4 years because in this very park she had been refused the right to speak.
Y'all better quiet down!
At this rally, she took the mic and called for the movement to help all of their community, not just the white gay man. Her actions were met with great backlash, and she was shunned by most of the movement for years.
I've never seen anyone so lost. I mean, Sylvia's world had suddenly just collapsed, and Sylvia left the movement for 20 years.
In the 90s, she joined the movement again and fought until she died from liver cancer in 2002. She is now known as the person who put the T in LGBT. The story goes a bit differently for Marsha. For Marsha, this fight cost her life. On June 6, 1992, she was murdered. Marsha, Pay It No Mind Johnson, spent her life being unapologetically herself and caring deeply about her cause, and for that, she paid the ultimate price. Both Sylvia and Marsha mothered this movement and dedicated what little they had to the fight. They are a part of why this world has progressed as far as it has.
I believe in the gay power. I believe in us getting our rights, or else I would not be out there fighting for our rights.
But just because they are gone does not mean that their fight is over.
Today, as Americans, we grieve the brutal murder, a horrific massacre of dozens of innocent people.
At least 50 people were killed by a gunman at a gay nightclub in what is being described as a terrorist attack.
On June 12, 2016, a man who doesn't deserve to be named opened fire on an Orlando gay nightclub filled with people, causing the biggest mass shooting in United States history. 49 died. But in the wake of this atrocity, the world didn't react with apathy or hate like it would have been before Stonewall, but with love.
People all over have come together with moving expressions of love and solidarity for the people of Orlando and the LGBT community.
It shows hundreds and hundreds of people this morning lining up around the block in Florida, waiting to donate blood.
And in the midst of all of this, people from all over the world returned to the Stonewall Inn to stand together. It proves that the acts of those homeless teenagers and drag queens shaped our world, and that their legacies will remain.